let's go over to IGN and see what IGN has to say. We know they give amazing reviews.
It may look like a Game Boy game from the 1990s, but this diminutive RPG is hiding far more than I expected beneath the surface. And once I burrowed on in, I never wanted to come back up. Mina the Hollowware is a tough-as-nails adventure that isn't shy about its influences. It borrows The Legend of Zelda's open-world structure, adds a healthy amount of Castlevania's horror setting and haunting soundtrack, and it peps things up with a dose of FromSoft's Souls games in its combat and progression.
Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you guys want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join me every single day, 9 p.m. over on the main channel, where you can catch me live every single day, 9 p.m. Eastern. I hope to see every single one of you there. Now back to the main video.
But somewhere in that mix, Mina becomes more than the sum of its parts, cleverly riffing and remixing them in smart ways. Its blocky exterior disguises rich combat systems, some of the best puzzle solving ever.
I'll say this, guys. Hold on. I'll say this right off the bat. At least it's a fucking video game. Can I get an amen here or something? At least it's a video game in the sense that it actually has gameplay. So we're off to a much better start. Even if it's not a game for you, at least it's actually a game. You know what I'm saying? Shit.
Ever put to screen, and
it's like the bare minimum these days.
Funny, deeply weird world I love to explore. Developer Yacht Club Games is no stranger to retro tributes, with its standout Shovel Knight series drawing heavily from NES classics like Mega Man. While Shovel Knight stuck to its source material pretty closely, Mina uses Zelda games like Link's Awakening and the Oracle Duo as a foundation for a much deeper, more modern take on a top-down action RPG. It doesn't play like one of those turn-of-the-century Zeldas, though, because Mina has a completely open world. There are no paths blocked until you get some special item, and nothing but your own skill level keeps you from...
I walked away for a second. I didn't realize my character was going to disappear when I did that. I just pulled the magician. It was like, whoop. Anyway, I will say this, though. Is it bad that we live in a world where the moment I hear the word modern, I immediately go like, ugh. Even though I know... Listen, I know modern should not mean anything bad, but unfortunately, it's used by people that use it in a way that almost always means something bad. You know? It sucks that we live in a world where I have to think that. Where I have to think, oh man, he said modern. What could he possibly mean by that? You know? Even though in a game like this, he could just mean like gameplay-wise, but in my opinion, they ruined the word. They ruined the word that they didn't have to ruin. Anyway, let's continue.
Going to any one of its 4 initial dungeons first. You just need to fight your way there. And if you can't cut it, there's probably another path to try instead, a clever place to grind for money and levels, or some side quests that lead to optional upgrades. Mina's world is an entrancing mix of gothic fantasy and steampunk tech. There are plenty of adorable animal denizens, like Mina herself, but also building-busting giants, friendly abominations, and a whole lot of possums.
You know, really quick, Grim, not Grim, I'm sorry. Jimmy in the chat says, this is a good game. Journals want to parasite off indie games now for attention. You know, there's something to that. There is absolutely something to that. Where before, back in the day, they really would not be talking about indie games like this. Sure, like every once in a while, they might, right? They might mention an indie game. They might be getting mainstream press that is so big they can't ignore it. Right, but for the most part, these people usually ignore the indie games and they tend to go straight for like the AAA big releases, something they could get from it. You know, they could definitely get something from it. Whereas the indie teams, they really can't get anything from it, so they tend to ignore them. Access journalism tends to go that way. But now all of a sudden, it seems like they're focusing all on these supposed indie games, and it's because I think that they understand that that's where most people are going towards these days, especially as people are buying cheaper and cheaper video games now. So I don't know. I just find it interesting. You know, all of a sudden that they suddenly love indie games. I don't know. But yeah, it's true. Valiant Go is right. They loved Shovel Knight when it came out. That is true. That is true. Like I said, every once in a while they did talk about indie games, but nowhere near as much as they used to. So anyway, let's see what we got going on.
These characters all have lives that are affected by your actions, and many end up holding a greater purpose in the larger story, which has some fun, if predictable, twists and turns, and really saves the good stuff for the end of the game. Mina herself is a bit of an enigma. She's a monster slayer, but also something of a mad scientist who has outfitted the Tenebrous Isles with tech that is being mysteriously sabotaged. The plot follows whether her machines are actually good or bad, and while brave little Mina seems to act heroically in this kill-or-be-killed overworld, often solving problems for the Isle folk, she also causes a few. Without spoiling anything, those can come back to haunt you. This little white mouse explores a lot of gray areas, and I love that. There are 6 main dungeons spread across the—
This is a game that I wouldn't normally not dislike. You know, who's the publisher? We'll find out in a second. I'm gonna look it up on SteamDB. But this is a video game that I wouldn't normally dislike. It's not something I would run out and go play right away, but I also wouldn't mind playing something like this. I'm curious what their score is. Everybody's given this game a 10. Almost everybody, anyway. A lot of people are giving this game a 10. This is a pretty long review, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to, let's see. Let's go. Do they talk about it? Yeah, let's do that. What's their verdict? These are way more interesting when I get to hear them talk about it. Let's see.
You get stuck. Just remember that this disables the feat system. I left it alone for that reason, but I started a new save just to mess around with it, and it's fantastic for making Mina more accessible. Mina the Hollower will burrow into your brain and set up a cozy little house there. I couldn't let it go. Clues to unsolved puzzles pop into my brain before bed. A spot high out of reach that I never set foot on beckons to me every time I pass it. That secret boss that destroyed me could be beatable with one really good grinding spot. Mina achieves the same heights in both action and style that its impressive inspirations reach on a regular basis, be that Zelda, Castlevania, or FromSoft RPGs. Even if all you've played is Breath of the Wild or Elden Ring, don't let the retro look fool you. Mina the Hollower will scratch the same itch. With an open world that's crammed with mysteries worth exploring and lively, clever combat I couldn't get enough of. It's a big game in a small package, and an absolute masterpiece of an adventure.
Kind of saw that coming. Damn, man, they're handing out 10 out of 10s like it's nothing, bro. Everything's everything's a 10 out of 10 unless it's made in the East, and it is not a 10 out of 10. It's a masterpiece, game of the generation. Listen, I didn't think the game looked bad. I thought the game looked good. I like the combat. The combat looked pretty cool, but a 10 out of 10, bro? Like, come on, at least an 8. At least an 8. You know? I feel like 10 out of 10 should be reserved for something that is unbelievably game-changing. You know what I'm saying? Something that is, like, so fucking amazing that you just haven't seen it before. It is just that game-changing. To be handing out 10 out of 10s to everything and calling them masterpieces, unless they have, you know, hot Asian women in it, and then suddenly it's a 5 or a 6. I don't know. I feel like it devalues it. Really, like, it's crazy, bro. And keep in mind, when they were reviewing Mixtape, they were all talking about how they haven't given it a 10 out of 10 in such a long time. That they all, like, they were just talking about how important that was to give a 10 out of 10. They were selling you on the idea that Mixtape got a 10 out of 10, and now here comes a whole nother indie video game getting a 10 out of 10 almost immediately after. It's like you guys have handed out more 10 out of 10s this year than we've seen in a long time. I don't know. Anyway, now we get to hear some descriptions. I want to hear exactly from the person who reviewed it, and then we're going to move on to the next story. Let's check this out.
Reviews director Tom Marks with Sam Claiborne, our reviewer of Mina the Hollower, to talk about the big number that just showed up once again. We've now given more 10s in May of this year than all of 2025 for games combined, which is insane. When it rains, it pours. Sometimes this just happens. A lot of good stuff comes out at the same time.
It's the statistics. We got a new Bubsy game this month, which means there's going to be more 10s to counter it out.
To balance it? Yeah,
to
maybe.
balance the world. The world has to be balanced.
If you've been following IGN, I'm sure you've seen Sam. Sam, you've been reviewing games for us and playing games and talking on GameScoop and all that for almost 2 decades now.
That's right.
You reviewed Metroid Dread for us, Mega Man 11, 3D Dot Game Heroes, which is one that you mentioned here.
Kind of proved my point, by the way. Kind of proved my point. They handed out more 10s this year than all of last year so far. So think about that. And we're not even halfway through the year yet. So imagine how many more 10s they're going to hand out. I think you're devaluing 10s. Which, to be fair, I feel like IGN has devalued a lot of numbers these days. But it's spent like 10 out of 10. Anyway, I've already said my piece about that.
Sounds right. I don't remember it, but it sounds right.
Yeah. And then also, speaking to Mina, a lot of our retro game collections, stuff like the Disney Afternoon collection, the Mega Man collection, Castlevania Anniversary collection, you've dabbled in those spaces as well. So definitely the right person for this review. Let's start with the 10. I've asked this now to Luke Riley and Simon Cardy on the previous 210 reviews. What pushes a game from an amazing 9 to a masterpiece 10 for you? Because the only other 10 you've given is Metroid Prime Remaster.
So bear with me here. This is a little bit of a long of an answer, but Mina the Hollower is just really fucking fun. That's it. It's just amazing. It's a really, really fun game. I think this game is it is really fun, and it's really fun because it's showing its references, its sources, it's what it draws from very clearly. It's saying, I'm a bit...
I gotta be honest with you, while I understand that being fun is very important for a video game, I'm just gonna say, if somebody's asking you, why are you claiming a game as a masterpiece, you really shouldn't just be saying, it's really fucking fun, that's it. Like, what else about it made it separate itself to become a masterpiece, though? Do you realize what that word means? The weight that word carries? This is why, they devalue words for it to be basically nothing. It's like, what else, though?
Big, old school looking game, and then when you play it, you realize that it's much more than that. And I'm a sucker for that. It is taking elements from a bunch of old games unabashedly, not saying, I'm an old game that's supposed to feel old. No, it's not doing that. It's saying we're gonna make a really fun experience that's constrained by an old timey looking video game. I feel like Mina's really direct in that way. It's like we're gonna squeeze a Souls-like amazing adventure game into the corners, the very sharp pixely corners of a Zelda game on Game Boy. Not even a Zelda game on Super Nintendo. It's meant to look like a Game Boy Color, like Zelda Link's Awakening DX, which is the colorized version of that, or the Oracle games, which are amazing games, but they're not like this game.
Speaking of those games,
Well, I will say this, like I said before earlier, at least we're talking about gameplay, because when they were talking about Mixtape, and he was like, hey, what made Mixtape a masterpiece? They were like, oh, it just sang to my heart. And I was like, dude, no. I clicked off the video. So at least we're talking about actual gameplay this time. I know the bar is really low, boys. I know it's really low, but bear with me.
Give people, I ran down some of your previous reviews, but give people some history with these inspirations, because you're obviously a big Castlevania fan, a big Zelda fan, but what speaks to you about them? And have you just played all of them? Are you that kind of super fan there?
Well, I mean, it's kind of by way of being old, right? I got, Castlevania 2 and rented Zelda 2 when I was, in elementary school. And those are the games that I played. Those are the contemporary hits. That's why I read Nintendo Power, was to see more of those series. I love Castlevania 1, 2, 3. I don't really like a 4 very much, and so I have very weird takes already on these games. But what I like about them is the and of course I love Symphony of the Night and everything after that. I don't think I'm not like this Castlevania super fan that cares about the lore and everything. I care about what it looked like and what it sounded like and why I liked that when I was a kid. And so what this takes that, and then the Zelda part. Everybody likes Zelda. I don't need to explain why people like Zelda. Zelda, you could just walk in any direction. You could find things early. You could run around and do things. The only thing stopping you is that you didn't know yet that the game hadn't taught you. Not necessarily
the equipment that you got, that matters a little bit more in dungeons, but just walking around the overworld, you can walk up into the mountains and just get absolutely destroyed by Lynels. You know, like I love that about open world games. And of course, Breath of the Wild did that. 4 directions, go any direction. This drops you into this hostile, world where you can go any direction, and it's hard from the start.
Hamar says, walk in any direction, 10 out of 10. It's so funny. Listen, I get what he's saying. I don't totally disagree, obviously, with some of the things he's saying about these franchises. I just think that games, if you're going to give something a 10, I just feel as if you should not be handing these out like nothing, especially if you're an establishment that wants to be taken seriously. A 10 out of 10 with the word masterpiece attached to it, that should mean a lot. And there's only a few games in history that have ever earned that kind of like praise or that kind of like recognition. And normally 10 out of 10 masterpiece video games almost always have some sort of mainstream appeal, to the sense where everybody knows about it. Everybody's playing it, right? Everybody kind of like understands it. Now, granted, that doesn't mean that they can't be games that sneak in, right? There are some games that are just unbelievable that sneak in that most people don't even know about right away. They might be smaller scale, smaller scope, whatever. But in today's modern world with social media and whatnot, that's almost impossible. That's almost impossible. When people hear about a 10 out of 10 video game, look what happened with Mixtape. They hear about a 10 out of 10 video game and people are immediately intrigued. They're like, wait, what? A 10 out of 10 game? Everybody's giving these games 10 out of 10s. Like, what? What are these games about? Why are they 10 out of 10s? There's no way. How? And then they start looking into the game. So naturally, people are going to find out about it. It's a game, 10 out of 10. I know we're at the point now where if it just runs, it's a 10 out of 10. But no, in all seriousness, the game, I think the game looks fun. I think the game looks cool. I think it's something that I would actually personally play. But in terms of like giving it a 10 out of 10, no matter how good this game may be, I don't think I would be comfortable doing that personally. Even if I wanted to give it a 9 because it's that good, right? Nothing wrong with giving an amazing video game a 9, but if you're going to give a game a 10, bro, there has to be something there that's just like world changing. I don't even know how to explain it, but you guys get I think you guys get what I mean. So that's basically it for this particular video game and the IGN review for this game. It's another 10 in their books. They've given more 10s now this year than the entirety of last year. We're not even halfway through the year. I'm almost positive we're going to see another 10. We already know Grand Theft Auto 6, that's going to be a 10, guaranteed. We already know that, right? They gave the previous Grand Theft Auto a 10 out of 10. They're going to give Grand Theft Auto 6 a 10 out of 10. It's pretty much almost guaranteed at this point. But yeah, overall, that's what's going on with that game.